All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to kick it off. Another Green Living Seminar presentation. I'm Dr. Elena Traister in the MCLA Environmental Studies Department. And these Green Living Seminar presentations, focusing on the theme Rewilding Our World, take place here in the Feigenbaum Center for Science and Innovation, room 121, every Wednesday at 5:30. If you want to take a look at upcoming presentations, you can take a look at our website, www.mcla.edu/greenliving. And these, as always, are free and open to the public. And before I introduce or turn it over to our speakers tonight, I want to invite you to come back next week, Wednesday, April 9th. Amy Meltzer, co-chair of the Massachusetts Pollinator Network Steering Committee, is going to present a lecture titled Rewilding for Pollinators. Today's presentation, Green Roofs, Rewilding Our Cities, will be given by Emily Ahlstedt and Steph Almasi of Recover Green Roofs. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having us. Okay, I'm hooked up here. Thank you guys for having us today. Again, just to introduce ourselves, I'm Emily Ahlstedt, Director of Horticulture and Maintenance at Recover Green Roofs. And I've been there for just a little bit over 6 years, managing the contracts, like existing and new ones, kind of looking at roofs all around the city, whether we just installed them and are now taking over maintenance, or if they're a roof that we actually didn't install and people are interested in maintenance. So exploring new and existing projects, helping the team with things. The best days are always the ones getting out in the field with the crew and actually doing the hands-on work. But yeah, excited to be here.
Hey, I'm Steph Almasi. I'm a horticulture manager, and I've just been with Recover a short time, but I've been in horticulture for over 20 years, working at ground level in fine gardening and other public garden spaces throughout Massachusetts and kind of up and down the East Coast. I like to visit plants all over the place and engage with a lot of different people. So that's what gets me going everywhere. I oversee the team and how we source all of our plants, where they go, where the team goes. We maintain over 120 roofs throughout Massachusetts, New England, and then all the way down to New Jersey. So it's a bit of a shuffle getting everyone where they need to go. So that's kind of what my main jam is. I am here in place of Mark, our boss, co-founder, owner, operator of Recover. He unfortunately fell ill last minute. So here I am doing this. So
just a little bit about Recover. So we're a design, build, and maintain company. We've been in the industry for just a little bit over 15 years, and we have projects, like Steph mentioned, that span the Northeast, from universities and hospitals to private residences and commercial buildings. So you'll see like a whole different mix of photos today, and definitely encourage you to check out our website after to see even more photos of the projects that we work on.
And a little bit of housekeeping. We will leave some time for questions at the end, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So if you could just hold on to those questions until then, we're happy to open up the discussion then. And a little overview of this presentation, that's what you're here for. If you look at this cute little monarch making its way across the city from Cambridge down to the corner of Boston here, it's kind of mapping out 6 roofs, sites that we're highlighting. We'll visit them to really explore what an urban corridor is and how that lends itself to rewilding our cities. We're looking through the lens of pollinators, birds, and other living organisms, including us. right? We're part of this using a variety of green roofs that cater to this theme of rewilding our cities. And so this map shows the project sites that we will talk about today, including the type of green roof, the ecological benefits and maintenance needs, community impact, and we'll highlight a plant at each pollinator pit stop. And so these 6, as I mentioned, we both mentioned what we're maintaining, these 6 roofs that we're visiting here is just a mere snapshot of probably 50 or more roofs in this like general vicinity radius that really, it's not just this. There's a much bigger picture, and so we're really contributing to a lot more through multiple roofs. And we're really especially excited to present to all of you students and anyone who's watching this as a recording. Thank you for tuning in. So that because while we've installed a lot of green roofs, and Emily and I have both worked in and have been involved with horticulture and ecological practices and biodiversity and all those things, there's a lot more work to be done in the future. And so we're really here to just infuse you with knowledge and excitement about this really, really important work and things that need to happen. Okay, so our first stop, thank you, Butterfly, is at the Abbott Building. That's in Harvard Square. Anybody know Harvard Square in Cambridge? Yeah. I love this roof because it's a beautiful meadow. Love a meadow. Big fan of meadows, okay? And you can see it from the ground if you know to look up. You know, we're often up there like, hey, we're up here, you know? So, you know, you can get these visual snippets if you get the right angle and you look up there, you can see flowers hanging over. And when I have family visiting and things like that, I can say, hey, we work up there. There's a green roof up there and it's huge as a meadow and there's all sorts of stuff going on. It's very productive. It has a lot of things happening. And so let's look at it some more. Each roof we're highlighting, you'll see a little, we're going to show you what the Google map, overhead version looks like. And you can see there's a lot of green space around here, right? Good canopy. Down to the east, there's Harvard Yard. And south of that is the Charles River. So lots of opportunities for stopovers on this roof. The Recover icon is showing you where it is right there. Emily, would you point? Is there a pointer on this thing? So. That'd be awesome. Who's the AV guy now? That's me, right? Does anybody know what the Abbott of this building? Do you recognize it? Do you know what it's ever been referred to as in the past? You didn't know this was going to be a quiz, right? Okay. Well, this was also known as the Curious George Bookstore, a very historical location here in the heart of Cambridge. And we'll talk a little bit more about the history. I won't bore you too bad in a few slides. We can move on. So what about this meadow? This is a lightweight meadow. As a historical and older building, we're talking about every building. We have to assess what the load capacity is for all of this buildup. There's drainage, there's media, and things that make up the system that is it's a built environment, right? It's not going to be what you see out there. It's its own thing that we created up there. So we're looking at, here you can see this is a 15 or more pounds per square foot. So that was assessed by a structural engineer, and it led us to make these decisions about this lightweight meadow. We use a special system and buildup that's called Omni. It's basically perlite that gets spread out there and then has a biological compost layer that goes on top so that the seeds will germinate in what is really a sterile environment. So this was a seeded meadow in the summer of 2021, and has been, we keep up with it by adding more seeds here and there, and Emily will talk more about maintenance. So yeah, we can move on to the next one. This building is a LEED Gold certification. A lot of buildings, new builds, old builds, look for this LEED Gold certification, which helps with tax benefits. It's a prestigious level of certification, being the gold one, which is a rating system, and it signifies the building's excellence in sustainable design and operation. So great thing. A lot of the places we work on have this certification. Great place for habitat. Look at all of that, those grasses and forbs. It's always continually changing with new things kind of petering out and other things getting regerminated, and a great pollinator pit stop with all of the, you can see the tree canopy there, and it's just only 3 stories up. So good access to everything. And the community impact here is great. Again, great use of a historical building, really enlivening it with this meadow on top. The Abbott building was originally designed in 1908 with the Brattle Street buildings and was built in 1894 with Newhall and Blevins was the architect. Well known as the Curious George building, which was a longstanding bookstore in the center of Harvard Square. We love that now it can be considered, have a new namesake as having a huge meadow on top, something else to identify it. It's accessible from the street, from the interior. You can take an elevator up there. If you're visiting an event or something like that in the penthouse area, you can then go out onto a patio, much like your green roof here. Go out onto a patio, see it from there. It has 2 levels. The second level is not accessible, but yeah. And then the other community impact is that it's a great proximity to other green spaces, large spaces within Cambridge and within at least a mile radius, which would be the Charles River, Mount Auburn Cemetery, which is the premier birding area for our area in the city, Fresh Pond, another big green space, and Alewife. Good stopovers.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, so I'll go in to some of our maintenance practices, and then for each slide I'll be going into one plant highlight. So just highlighting one plant, which is really hard for us to do because we like so many of our plants that are on a lot of our roofs. But yeah, as Steph mentioned, all of the birds and bees and butterflies that we see on this roof. So one of the things that we're developing and looking to do on our maintenance visits is tracking these pollinators. So, we're just trying to track this biodiversity for internal record keeping, comparing to our other meadows, and just seeing what we see throughout different seasons. And then also mentioned was how this is just a large nesting site. So we try to hold off as long as we can to cut back all the perennials and the grasses until all those overwintering species that have been nestling in here can hatch and emerge. So ideally that's late April, mid-May. Sometimes it gets tricky with scheduling, but we're trying to hold off for all of those pollinators. And then over time, we've just seen that this vegetation that's growing and getting so much denser just allows us to not use water as much. So we did use it for establishment of the meadow when everything was seeded, but once we cut things back, we let a lot of it just break down on its own on the meadow, and that kind of adds this dense layer that retains moisture better within it, and then we don't need to water every day. Maybe it's once, maybe twice a week. It depends what rainfall has been doing and what the temperature is outside. So after that cutback, new growth emerges, and we start to see all the different textures, varieties, all the insects come out. It's kind of the most exciting part is May and June of these meadows to see everything emerging. And we're always trying to encourage these more desirable species and discourage the ones that we don't want. So obviously we like things like clover to still move in, but if we start to see just less desirable weeds or a lot of grass pressure that isn't a grass that we necessarily put in, we're trying to cut those back consistently and encourage more things like Monarda and other things that the pollinators are really going to feed on. And then, we're really encouraging goldenrod, asters, milkweed, and there's just, a lot of maintenance visits with editing, reseeding if an area is thin or lacking anything. And then we're always kind of looking for that typical system maintenance to make sure the drainage is working, we're not overwatering, underwatering, there aren't any clogs anywhere, and that there's just, a nice flow of water through it. So like I mentioned for each of these, whoops, we're already on it. We'll go into the plant highlight. So this one here, I'm sure a lot of you know it, Monarda fistulosa, which is also known as bee balm or wild bergamot. It attracts specialist bees, bumblebees, hummingbirds, and hawk moths. It's a member of the mint family, so it can actually be used to make a lot of teas. It does really well on dryish soils in prairies, so obviously ideal for a really hot rooftop that we're trying to not water a lot. It's native, blooms late May to early September, and really, really easy to start from seed. So like we just mentioned out on your green roof, you know, once it comes around to fall and these dry up, the seeds are then just flying around from the wind or birds are dispersing them. And then we're kind of getting free Monarda that's naturally dispersed across the meadow, which we love.
Okay, next up on our journey, Henry Street Farm in Cambridge. What do I love about this roof? Who likes to farm? Who likes to grow vegetables? Anybody here? I love growing vegetables. This person also loved growing vegetables. This is labor of love turned into a beautiful space. The owner is, we're still in Cambridge. The owner, so very close proximity. The owner came up with this project. It's been gotten a lot of press. It was awarded the 2024 awarded the Living Architecture Monitor Urban Agriculture Award, and just selected for the Boston Society of Landscape Architecture Lightning Talk and Tour. So lots of chatter about this place. The homeowner was, you know, climbing a ladder to garden out of 5-gallon buckets on her roof, and you know, going back and forth with all this harvesting, and said, hey, we got to do better here. I need something better. So we helped out with that. The homeowner supports local students with seedlings and hands-on veggie growing education all the time, really likes to give back, and has been featured in major media outlets like the Boston Globe, Boston.com, WBZ News Radio, and CBS News video coverage as well. So it's really an impactful space. And here's our Google view, again in Cambridge, still looking at this. Yeah, can you point it out, Emily? Yeah, you can see this is the garage before the roof came on, and you can see really surrounded by neighbors and things like that, like smack dab in the middle of their neighborhood. Lots of trees around, so good opportunity for stopping over and getting a lot of friends joining. So imagine though if that garage was there and you're looking in you're in your kitchen window in your second floor kitchen, and you're looking out and there's just like a black rooftop just sitting there baking, making more ambient heat. And so the homeowner here said, you know, let's change this. No more 5-gallon bucket gardening. And we worked together to turn it into this. This is a rooftop garden. It's about 1,200 square feet. Various weight allowances. You know, it's distributed throughout. A structural engineer had to be consulted to figure out what we could do here. And then also various media depths. We've got a few different indicators of like what type of media green roof terminology: extensive, intensive, semi-intensive. So this is there's 47 inches of this extensive bed, which is a shallower bed. That's going to be on the next slide. You'll see the intensive beds are these raised beds, 12 inches, and then in other areas, there's perimeter planters that have even more depth. So the homeowner does take care of this one. And then the benefits of this one are great. The borrowed view for neighbors and increasing just the aesthetic value of their whole neighborhood. Everyone can kind of enjoy this. It's gonna contribute to some ambient air cooling instead of having that black roof membrane there. These plants are continually contributing to that. And there's this beautiful coexistence of a vegetable garden and pollinator garden. Yeah.
So obviously there's an immense community impact here, but it's cool how this roof provides that dual purpose design. It includes both the vegetable garden and the pollinator garden. So it's like planting for the surrounding community of people and insects. And what's cool too is this homeowner, Barb, actually wanted to take over maintenance herself. So she does all the harvesting, planting, and everything of both plots and the irrigation. So we love to see this excitement. Obviously, we love maintaining our roofs, but it's awesome when you get like a certain homeowner that wants to take it on themselves. The biodiversity boost. So this is a 4-inch system, not the vegetable, but the other one that was here. That's just like a 4-inch system, which is really cool. Some people would view that as like you can just grow ground cover or like sedum, the succulents that are, you know, just really drought tolerant. But we were able to mix in like a whole kind of like biodiverse mix. So it just allows for so much more color, texture, variety throughout that plot. And then you still can kind of get that like sedum ground cover in between it. But it's just like catering to way more in the environment without just becoming a monoculture. And most importantly, the coolest thing about this site is the rainwater harvesting and cistern. So I'm not an irrigation specialist by any means, but I'll speak to it just because it's really cool and we're kind of aiming for this on more and more projects as they come up. But it's a 1,700 gallon holding tank and it's beneath this garage, which collects the stormwater from any of the non-planted areas. So obviously the planted areas are ideally absorbing all that stormwater, but any excess is going into this cistern and it's pumped back up to irrigate the roof. And then any overflow water goes through a perforated pipe into the rain garden on Barb's property. And then, yeah, any water not used for the roof irrigation is then directed also into this rain garden. So this really helps eliminate overflow into the city sewer systems. And just another reason why, you know, even though this is only a small footprint or small to medium, 1,200 square feet, it's just another reason why these like small pocket gardens are just so impactful within cities. The community impact. So the homeowner is working with so many groups. Steph mentioned a couple, but the big ones are like the Secret Gardens of Cambridge. It received an award of excellence under like the urban farm category. And she also works with Seedlings to Students. And I think you can see this one here, but the plant highlight here is actually this Linum perenni. So it's also known as perennial blue flax. It attracts small bees, butterflies, and flower flies. It prefers like full sunlight, well-drained soils in that full sun, so ideal for this environment. It's a very like delicate looking plant, so kind of adds that interesting texture to the plot. And it's a really strong bloomer in late spring for about 8 weeks, just like these strong, vibrant blue flowers that come out of it.
Okay. Storrow Drive in Boston, still in Boston, obviously. We've hopped the river, and anybody familiar with Storrow Drive? Yeah. Well, a lot of traffic there, a lot of inputs into our city, exhaust, noise, things like that. But this is a sweet little roof that you can go to the next one we can see is right there next to the Recover icon. We don't want to get storrowed here, which is, does anyone know that term at all? Getting storrowed? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, this is a small place and spot. As Emily was mentioning, these smaller pocket gardens really have a huge impact. You can go to the next one. It's 1,000 square feet only, but can hold quite a bit of weight, 36 to 70 pounds per square foot, and is semi-intensive. So intensive being 6 inches or more depth. This one is just right around that range and does get a little bit deeper. So it does allow for us to plant things with deeper I see you, and we can do the questions at the end. Is that okay?
I just wondered what the cross street is for this. Do you know where this is? The cross street?
The cross street.
Do you want to switch back?
Back? I'm
I
not
don't
sure
remember.
which one that is.
I don't remember right now. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Anyway, as we talked about, the black roofs can create a lot of heat and water runoff. So this roof is still contributing just to absorb some of that water and runoff and keep it from going into the Charles, and then also work with the cooling and ambient air. Can you go to the next one? And it does work as a noise barrier, and includes, it really lends itself to the aesthetic value of this space. You know, all of the neighbors here in this apartment area can look out and kind of enjoy their neighbor's borrowed view once again. Next one. You want to go on?
Yeah. So this is like one of my favorite roofs, I think, again, just because of like how much you can do with like a shallow system and like such a cool palette of plugs. The plants really work together here. So kind of different from even what we just saw out on your green roof. It's a tray system. So each tray is kind of like performing individually, but it's nice when you have like one open plot where all of this root mass can grow together. Again, then like decreasing the need for water and all of that root mass just growing together and each plant benefiting from each other. So we see a lot of that. The system provides pollen, nectar, and larval sources for all the pollinators nearby. All of these healthy, fertile plants, they do need consistent trimming to continue reblooming into the late summer and early fall. And just knowing like the close proximity to the Charles and then the Charles spitting right out into the ocean, we're never using anything that's non-organic for fertilizers. We're trying to not even really use them unless we absolutely have to or notice that there's like a deficiency. And of course, no pesticides, but here like we really are careful to pay attention to that. And then there's just other like standard maintenance practices like weeding again. There's thyme, which we love, but there's a lot of it and it starts to take over. So it's beautiful, but as this plot matures, we don't want the whole garden to become thyme. So when we're there, it's again, just like the Abbott building, trying to thin out those less desirable species and really like encourage the more desirable ones. The community impact. So I don't know if anybody has heard of the Charles River Watershed Association, but if you haven't, it is important that we listen to what they're saying, we follow their company's mission and continuous efforts. So after installing green roofs like this, it's our responsibility to be proper stewards of these plots, just like we should all be proper stewards of like the land around our house or whatever we might be taking care of. So these guidelines that they often offer help guide us. They work to protect and restore and enhance the Charles River and its surrounding watershed. And they actually have like an annual cleanup every April that brings in over 3,000 volunteers. And they remove all the invasive species around the Charles, which spans 80 miles. They assist with park maintenance and remove trash and debris, which is great. Oh, there's something else. Oh, I didn't highlight a plant. Yes, okay, so the plant highlight here is, we talked about how you can really just see like the pink plant here is not the champion. I mean, we love it, but that's not the highlighted one. This is Armeria, which is amazing, little accent. But the one that we love is Selene uniflora that we're keeping track, that we're really loving and seeing on a lot of our roofs. It's spreading, mat-forming perennial. It grows 8 inches tall. The flowers resemble small carnations, and it actually adapts quickly to environmental changes and attracts pollinators in coastal regions. So ideal for this setting.
Going deeper into the city, Lafayette City Center, which is a hub in the downtown district of Boston. You may park here if you're going to the theater district or something like that, but it's also home to a number of businesses and corporate offices and whatnot. So this is a great space. It's a courtyard feel and has mature trees, including serviceberry, huge favorite of mine, publicly accessible from the building, a great use of space for folks who are working there and can take a break outside. And you can see right here is that arched section next to our little icon. Is anyone here familiar with serviceberry? Yeah? Cool plant, right? We love it. So big fans here. We love them. You can go to the next one. And this is another example, not another, but it is an example of an intensive roof system, which I always think of like intensive as deep. It's like very deep, think thoughtful, intense. And that's going to be a 6 inches or more depth. These, we do many of these that are, this one is 10 inches, and that's what we really need to get the bigger material in there. What a great way to spend your lunch, or if you just need to like decompress after you've been looking at your computer screen or something at work, you can go out to this courtyard and enjoy some shade and some nice trees. They really do a lot of heavy lifting and create a really nice space here. And benefits here, of course, we know trees are amazing and the best, and they're the biggest absorber of CO2. So they're helping to clean the air, they're creating shade, they're cooling the space. And there's a huge challenge around putting trees onto green roofs here. We have to like take a crane and it flies through the air and then very carefully lower it in and break up the root ball so we don't add too much weight, and then put it into the hole, and we take really good care of them for years and years to come, because it's also really hard to replace them. So yeah.
So I'm sure you could have guessed it, but the plant highlight here is the serviceberry trees, Amelanchier canadensis. They're just like a great habitat. You can see the shade it's providing, and they just provide like food for birds with their abundant berries, and they're also a host for moths. So another great food source for birds. Their multi-stemmed structure, you can see like many stems coming out of the base there. Is really like visually appealing and different from a lot of other trees that we're seeing, and they're drought tolerant once established. So obviously this is a site for all beings. Here's a photo of like a cute little snail, which is a type of mollusk, and snails are actually vital for biodiversity. They play roles in decomposition, soil formation, and serve as food for other animals. And their sensitivity to environmental changes makes them valuable bioindicators. So their decline can actually signal like a broader ecosystem issue. So actually us seeing them on this site is a very like good sign of a healthy system.
Moving on, thank you, Monarch. We're in the Back Bay area now, another business commercial space. I love this roof as well. They're 2 small roofs, actually. And if you go to the next slide, Emily, you can see this building, another kind of historical looking building. You can see the little arched windows. This is where we access these roofs, which is really kind of fun. It's very idyllic to go into this really neat conference room, very clean and tidy, and you look out and kind of step out of this like arched window that's like kind of old. I don't know. It's a really cool space. I feel happy for the people that get to have meetings in these conference rooms, because they look out the window and there's like this tiny perennial garden there, full of, bees and flowers and things like that. You can see the Menard has actually kind of gone by in this picture, but always something happening here. Great coverage. It's, like I said, 2 roofs that are just 380 square feet each. And it's a pretty shallow depth. Does anyone know what we would call that? The answer is right there, so you don't have to answer. This is up on the 15th floor, so great views too. So you get to look out at a really beautiful little roof, and then see the city skyline and onto the Charles. Really good stopover for all kinds of different pollinators. So so much we can grow there. Also, more benefits. Stormwater management, we've talked a little bit about that with the Henry Street roof. All of the roofs that we have and are contributing to this. It's a huge benefit for having a green roof on a building, which in urban areas like Boston, precipitation becomes problematic as stormwater runoff. Often it runs off over impervious surfaces, right? Like asphalt, other roofs and things like that. And so we are absorbing some of that, slowing that. The plants are using that, and the roofs are mitigating a lot of that runoff, so to keep it from, going directly into the Charles or overloading our water systems. Again, urban heat island effect is being mitigated here as well. Any amount of green space is green added is helpful to that. The urban heat island, I'm sure everyone's heard of this, is places where there's a lot less tree canopy and things like that. And, that tree canopy contributes to cooling these areas. And so without that, on the next site, you'll see it's very evident where it could be an issue. So any bit of green that we can add there is really helping to alleviate that effect.
So obviously a pollinator magnet, whether pollinators are finding this little site through the color, the smell, the temperature that's up there. It kind of all depends, but it's really hard to kind of like pin to just one plant highlight here. So I'll mention a couple. This photo here, you can see like the columbine that's kind of mixed in amongst the sedum succulent plants below it. So we love this plant. It does actually reseed really, really fast. So we're kind of trying on our maintenance visits to reduce the spread, maybe keep it in like certain swaths or save some of the seeds for other sites like our meadows. But yeah, they spread a lot in these two twin plots. They need to be well kept so that they don't take over. And then there's yarrow, which is great. The seed heads are a good food source. There's heuchera, monarda, liriope, and then sedum as the ground cover. So all different kind of like varying textures and heights, which we try to keep maintaining on our maintenance visits. You can really see in like that last slide, this slide here, the different height structures. So it mimics sort of like a natural ecosystem that we would see maybe at ground level. And this then provides different levels of shelter for varying species. So yeah, always trying to kind of keep those varying heights out here just to keep the interest flowing. But yeah, that's what they see right through their conference room window. So the community impact, of course, is the employee access, being able to go out there and just like get some fresh air. There's kind of like nice Goshen stone landing pads that you can stand on. You could open the doors while you're in the conference room. And yeah, they're just really lucky to be able to look at that every day. We also have really small group tours that go through here. So like local gardening clubs or whatnot, we'll show them these spaces. And it's also like a really good site to train new employees on our team, whether they have like, they're an intern or have a little bit more horticulture experience. It's nice to kind of see a bunch of different plants in a small space and teach different like deadheading or pruning or weeding practices.
Great, thank you. Back to our last stop here, back to the farm. A much bigger farm than the Henry Street Farm, Newmarket Farm in Boston. This is at 960 Mass Ave, and it's Recover's second rooftop farm on the Boston Medical Center campus, following the power plant farm. Both farms enhance community partnerships and access to fresh foods, which we'll go into as we move on through here. I was talking about the urban heat island effect, and you can see, whoa, that's a lot of pavement, right? Next, right where the Recover icon is, that is the bare roof, just the bare membrane. A lot of heat there, but they also have solar panels, so that's great. And a little bit of trees over there to the left, so really looking to expand this green space here, and Boston Medical Center had great successes with this. And you can see through this drone footage, you're coming onto the roof. We love this roof. Great roof. Again, we don't maintain this. But fun fact, does anyone care to guess or have any guesses on how many pounds of produce are grown annually from this farm?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say 150 pounds.
Okay. Anybody else? 5,000. 5,000 pounds of fruits, vegetables, and herbs, right? It's incredible. These details here, it's a really big space, 7,300 square feet. Structural engineer came into play here to assess and, let us know what the weight distribution and requirements were. And then the media depth is quite deep, 19 to 23 feet. So they can really grow things, carrots, other deep root vegetables and things like that. There's also a covered wash station and outdoor education space too. So giving a lot here. I love this photo because not only is it visually pleasing with the geometric shapes and colors, but it really shows this symbiotic relationship and sustainability that we can highlight here between solar panels helping on that spectrum, and then also the working farm working together, and really just covered that whole hot kind of black membrane to be a farm and create food.
Cool. So as Steph mentioned, we install rooftop farms, but we aren't the farmers. So this one is Higher Ground Farm in Boston that takes care of it. They have like very uniquely shaped planter beds that they're able to amend with local compost if they want increased fertility or structure. We never want to like overload the system with compost, but we can always top dress and mix some into the top levels. They have organized row cropping for easier access to all of the plants, faster harvests, and succession plantings that they're definitely planning internally just to keep things rotating. Once something is done and comes out, the next thing is going right in. So they're just getting like constant harvest throughout the year. And if I were to highlight a plant, I'm not really a very good vegetable gardener, but I would just highlight that they use a lot of marigolds at the edges. And this is sort of for like insect pest management, just like a really natural way to deter certain things because they're just so fragrant. So they have like a lot of those anchoring the edges. And you'll see like the trellising and how they grow vertically to maximize their space up here. So they have a lot of space, but it's just awesome to see that they're also like growing things up. So they have a lot of tomatoes growing really high. I feel like last year we saw, like 10 feet or more. And then the overall site is handicap accessible. So that's just amazing for volunteers or staff or just anybody visiting, that they can get in and around and see everything. So community impact, obviously huge. It's a collaboration between Boston Medical Center, Recover Green Roofs, and Higher Ground Farm. 7,300 square foot rooftop farm, adding green space to the New Market district. So we're between like the South End and Dorchester, which addresses food insecurity with culturally relevant crops for that area. A portion of each harvest is also donated to South End nonprofits, and that includes Rosie's Place, which is a women's shelter and food pantry. It contributes obviously to the urban heat island reduction, biodiversity, and of course stormwater management. There's also like a really high-tech irrigation system and moisture monitoring system in here. So the farmers have gotten good at dealing with that, and they have like an app on their phones. So things are really, really dialed in. It's never really overwatered or underwatered, and they can change it like per crop that they're growing. And this design captures tens of thousands of gallons of rainwater annually. So ending on all positive notes. Not that any part of this was negative.
except for climate change.
So yeah, now we'd like to open it up for questions.
Yeah, and thank you. Thanks for your attention. If you want to follow us on social media, at Recover Green Roofs is our handle on Instagram. And if you want to sign up for our newsletter, which you should, you can scan that QR code right there, and we'll send you tasty tidbits about green roofs and things every month. Okay, yeah. Questions, yeah.
How long has the concept of green roofs been around?
Great question. Do you want to go?
Sure. I don't know the exact date. It's really like started in Europe. So I would say they're like way ahead of us in terms of green roofs. They have a lot of like naturalized systems too. They're a bit less manicured and it's kind of more mandated there. So they're like more like affordable or easier to kind of install left and right. Whereas here we're a little bit behind, but getting there for sure. I don't know how long they've been around there. I would say over 100 years for sure. And then like Canada is ahead of us, but like us in New York, I would say are kind of like the leaders within the US, Boston and New York.
And we've been in business for 15 years, and I would say it would be 20 or 25 years since they maybe have started around here. Maybe a little before us being in business, I would say.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Thank you.
I think kind of going off of that, do you know if there's any like city or state or town funded like green roof projects happening, or is it mostly like private funded?
That's a good question. There's a lot of like mandates being put in place in Cambridge and Somerville. So there's a lot of like tax benefits if you put one in. I think there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline that makes them like more affordable for people.
I will say in the city of Boston, there is a tax credit, like a dollar amount. I think it's like $5,000 or something like that. There is a credit for installing a green roof in a residential home. So it's a small drop in the hat, but it does help to add something of that value to your space. We were recently in New York too, which their new buildings, they passed some laws about new buildings that have to have some sort of sustainable element, which would be either like solar panels or green roof or something like that. And so now all of their new buildings have that incorporated in the build out. So that's one thing that's happening in New York. I would not be surprised if that would start to happen for us as well. Yeah. A lot of schools, we have a lot of universities and schools and things like that that incorporate green roofs into their infrastructure. Yes.
What's the typical depth of the soil on a green roof?
Good question. It varies so much. So we can go like as shallow as 2 inches. Some of our systems can actually be like soilless. So there has to still be a water retention layer down there and like a proper drainage mat. So the roots can really still find that water. Sometimes there's still a very, very thin layer of soil, but they're kind of like anchoring into this root mat that's underneath. That would only really be for a sedum extensive. So it's just going to be that succulent ground cover. But if you want to start adding in the like biodiversity mix and a lot of perennials, that's when you want like at least 3 or 4 inches. And then it's all the way up to whatever, whatever the roof can hold. But yeah, we're putting in sometimes like 15, 18-foot trees if we can.
Yes.
Are you guys or other organizations doing research in terms of determining how well these benefit like wildlife as compared to other wild spaces? And not only that, but whether or not they act as an ecosystem trap, perhaps pulling animals, wildlife into areas where they will otherwise be endangered?
No. I mean, yes. We're starting to. We're trying. We are monitoring what we see there, but haven't been very many studies, at least in terms of what we're looking at. But but it would be a great project for a student. Can you break down that question a little bit more for me? I think I answered a portion of it?
Yeah, I guess the first part was just whether or not there had been
Not a lot of studies, no.
Yeah, if you guys were monitoring the biodiversity of wildlife that was benefiting from these projects, and then also if there was any similar studies. I know that those trees are a favorite of birds.
Yeah.
But windows are one of the number one killers.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
killing over 1 billion birds
Exactly.
in the country. And so it's just that I was curious.
I think it is a thing that we recognize that does happen, especially with window strikes, and the intent is to work with the building owners or facilities to help educate them and get them to use film or lights out during migratory seasons at night to try to deter birds from coming down to that level, because that is a huge issue with lighting and things like that. We did have one site that had some bird strikes, and we told them that was an issue, and they mitigated that. So we do work on educating these sites as much as we can. Unfortunately, in a huge city, it is a huge problem. So I do feel fortunate that we're in a position to be good stewards of those spaces and educate folks to do the right thing to protect birds. And you're absolutely right by calling that out. So we recognize that as an issue, and we do see it at times. We are noting and paying attention to what we're getting for biodiversity, and that's really where we want to start focusing more of our efforts as we create more and more habitat to see what type of impacts it's doing. It takes 3 to 5 years to really get that data together and really see how it's changed. So being a small and young company and in a small, pretty new niche industry, I think it's been slow to get started, but excited to see how that can change and where we can end up. Here, I think first, right? And then there.
You said that you guys work throughout New England and New York, New Jersey. Do you guys have another favorite city that you like to work at besides Boston? Ooh.
We have, I would say, outside of Boston, we have the most roofs in Providence, Rhode Island, and yeah, they're interesting there. There's such a mix of residential, and then Brown University has a lot of green roofs. So yeah, I would say Providence.
Yeah, I have a call out for Amherst. Amherst College has a beautiful green roof that we all love a lot. It's a deep one with lots of biodiversity, and we've actually included mushroom inoculated logs to encourage fungus and other things like that. So yeah,
That's a great one.
When you guys are designing these roof spaces, are there specific pollinated species that you're trying to cater to, or are you casting a wide net to try and attract just a whole variety of them?
good question. Wide net. I think we do have to think most about it. It narrows it down. There's all these buckets, right? Right plant, right place. So we have to design for what plants are going to survive in this really intense environment. So I'm thinking about meadow or prairie plants that can really tolerate heat, sun, dry, droughty, or sometimes poor conditions, because the media that we use, it's an engineered type of soil, and so it doesn't have a high organic matter. So we really want lean soils, plants that can do that. So so I'm okay, it's this category, and then I'm all right, so but then what native plants do we have? And I actually really think about recreating where these plants would occur together in nature and in these situations, and then it really kind of narrows it right down to then it just becomes those are the pollinator plants that we end up with, you know what I mean? So I deal with a lot of plant lists that have all of those things that go into one. If we are able to have the if we're able to do the design, or when we're including seed mixes or plant choices that we're swapping out. Oftentimes we end up with a landscape architect who's designed a space, and so we're always like kind of poring over the plant list to make sure that it's going to do everything that we want it to do. And attracting pollinators and giving back into biodiverse environments, or giving ecological benefits is high on there. Sorry, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think if
I'm sorry.
anything, like it's super helpful when people on our team are like more familiar with different pollinators than the rest of us. Like Steph knows so much about them, and sometimes you're just seeing even like annuals and you say, oh, they're covered in bees, that's great, but it might just be like one type of bee. So it's really awesome to like mix up the plant palette, really encourage those native species. It's okay to kind of sometimes mix in that like fun color if the client is requesting it, but yeah, like it's not always like the best sign if you're just seeing like bumblebees or something. It's still good, but like it's nice to see a whole combination of things.
Yes.
What's the biggest barrier that you face in terms of convincing people to transition their roofs or to start a project like this? Like, what is the biggest complaint or barrier?
Yeah, that's a good question. Starting off, it's sometimes weight. If people sort of like, if there's nothing there and they say, I want X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes structure and weight and price. So sometimes bringing in the structural engineer is like a really costly part depending on what they need. The best thing that's going to happen is they come back and say it can support the weight that you want to do what you want to do. And other times, if different supports and things need to happen beneath that level to get them, what they're hoping for, it can be really expensive. But then there's also good options, like the Ahlstedt Omni Meadow is the perlite system, and then that really rich layer at the top for the seeds to get established. Super light. So a lot of the times, if the building can't support the weight or the house can't support the weight, there's options to do shallow systems or lightweight Omni systems. And then the other one, in general is cost, which I would say we're getting there on with like other city initiatives moving forward, and finding ways to just install roofs that sometimes like aren't crazy and over the top, but saying you can do this 4-inch system, just plugs, it's like root barrier, drain board, filter, soil, plants, and kind of like finding these like cost-effective, pretty like quick install options.
You mentioned on one of the earlier slides that these spaces have like ambient noise reduction to them. Is that something that was designed for, or is something that you're just coming to notice? And have you done any kind of study to see whether this is a subjective finding or an objective finding?
I would say it just happens. I think that like the engineers and architects probably know it's going to, but as far as studies, we haven't done any yet. It's just like, it's kind of like assumed. And the deeper that you go and the larger material that you're going to use, the more of a noise barrier there's going to be, of course. But in terms of studies, it would also depend. Like, are you in downtown Boston, or are you in just like a Cambridge neighborhood?
Yeah, what type of plant material do you have too? Is it a lot higher or lower? Things like that. So, again, not huge studies on that one, but we do know that it does absorb that sound. Yeah.
So I know we're
Just
at
right
our
there.
6:30 mark, and there's so many great questions. If you still have a question, I checked with Emily and Steph. They'll stick around if you want to come up individually. But I want to thank you both.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having us. Thanks for your attention.